Hello, everyone, and welcome to Travel Webcast Wednesday with Baxter Media, your partner in travel. I'm Dan McDonald, Webinar Manager for Travel Webcast Wednesday. Today, we'll again be exploring the future of travel and tourism in a post-COVID-19 world with experts from across the industry. And the theme for today's webcast is the future of cruise. Our first segment will feature an expert Q&A with Sanjay Goel, President of Cruise Connections, and our second segment will consist of a thought-provoking and exciting panel discussion that you will not want to miss. A moderator for today is Ted Davis. Ted is the Western Canada editor at Baxter Media. He has traveled extensively for his work, visiting over 50 countries and researching and composing articles for Baxter. Just before we get into things, I'd like to let our viewers know that at the end of each segment, you'll have the chance to ask questions to our panelists. To do so, just type them into the Q&A widget, and that Q&A section is in your public chat box on the right side of your screen, and those questions will be answered in due time. And remember, this is a live session, so your patience is appreciated during any technical difficulties that might arise. Okay, Ted, I'll now hand things over to you.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you very much. And welcome, Sanjay. Thank you for setting aside time today to join us for this webinar. I really appreciate that. And just to let the viewers know, Cruise Connections is, correct me if I'm wrong, the number one cruise-only retailer in Canada. Is that a correct characterization?
There's no way to be absolutely sure, Ted, especially in these usual times. But that's what other people tell us, so to speak.
Okay, that's good to know. And you're in the unique position of being able to observe cruise sales, and as you've noted in the past, future bookings have been maybe stronger than expected, given the conditions that the cruise industry is facing now. So are those sort of forward sales still happening? Is that still a current trend? And has that been a surprise to you? And maybe you can explore some of the reasons for that.
Well, listen, the last few months have certainly been very encouraging for us. And from what I've heard from cruise line executives and some of my colleagues, they've also enjoyed a fairly strong last few months. There's no question that, especially amongst past cruisers, there's, whether you call it pent-up demand or enthusiasm, itchy feet, they want to get away. And certainly those who have cruised before know what a fantastic value a cruise vacation is, know that it's very well organized, very safe, and really one of the best ways to explore multiple countries in a single trip.
That attraction continues, obviously, for cruisers, even acknowledging some of the challenges to the industry. So you foresee that those sorts of numbers will continue as far as sales go and bookings?
I have no crystal ball.
Right.
I can only hope. There was over 30 million guests in 2019 on a global basis. That number is expected to continually increase. There are many dozens of ships from small to large on order and currently under construction. So all of the industry gurus and the bankers have said the fundamentals are strong and cruising will continue to grow. And certainly, as I mentioned, those past cruisers are very enthusiastic to return to the water.
The past cruisers, I assume, are also relying to some degree on cruise credits, and it's does that account for a big percentage of the bookings, or are there a lot of new bookings as well?
There's a good combination of both, Ted. From what I read and hear from industry executives, it's somewhere around half and half. Maybe a little bit more FCCs or a little bit more new bookings, depending upon the line they're with and the style of business that they do. Certain cruise lines are not necessarily the ones to attract first-time cruisers, so to speak. And so they might have more FCC bookings than a new booking. Regardless, I think everybody's enjoyed a very strong August, likely July, and one would hope that will continue. That being said, we certainly are all anxious about when there'll be a green light from the CDC. The cruise industry has distinguished itself by working in an abundance of caution, always putting the needs of the guest, the crew, and the communities that are served at the forefront of all their decision making, and have actually stayed ahead. They're pausing beyond the requirement in order to make sure they get it right.
That must give cause for optimism, knowing that the cruise lines are being that proactive in looking into solutions. Are you tracking any proposed changes to cruising procedures or protocols, and are there any that are seem particularly significant and that really will help make passengers feel safe when they're on a cruise ship?
I think everyone's trying to figure out a way
Yep.
to do those 3 W's: wear a mask, watch your distance, wash your hands on board a cruise environment. You know, one of the executives, Arnold Donald, said, "We are social gatherers as people. We're not social distancers, social isolators."
Yeah.
And I think that's a very good description of human behavior. So how do you incorporate or find a balance between the two, which most importantly keeps the cruise vacation as rewarding as it is? People go back because it's phenomenal in terms of experience and value. You know, families go, and the parents don't need a vacation from their vacation. You know, they've enjoyed themselves, and so have the kids. So how do you keep all of those things working in the new environment, whatever that environment looks like? And I know they've all been working very hard, whether it's Carnival Corporation's recent extraordinary program on the science of COVID, other companies forming panels. Everyone's working very hard with the same end goal in mind: deliver a spectacular vacation that's as good as, if not better than it used to be. And how do you keep the guests safe? So that's evolving a bit.
There are some early cruising happening now, and I'm assuming that I don't know if you've heard or not how passengers are accepting some of the new protocols that are in place, and are they having the vacation, that the cruise vacation that they obviously hope to have and have paid for, while also complying with new protocols and procedures? Have you been able to receive any feedback from passengers on the experience?
I haven't spoken to any guests directly. I think what you're referring to are the MSC sailings that have been going. They're, as you may know, restricted to members of Schengen countries. In the first few sailings, as far as I know, have essentially been 90% Italians with some other smattering of other countries thrown in. But MSC themselves say the secret to the success has been telling people about a standard and then making absolutely sure it's adhered to, no matter what the circumstances are. So you've heard some stories about guests who are on an MSC-sanctioned shore experience, the only way you're allowed to go ashore, and who chose to break away and then tried to rejoin, and they were not allowed to reboard the vessel. You know, you've heard other experiences where the guest was in a vehicle that was transporting to the ship other guests, and one of the guests in the vehicle tested positive because they were testing people before they could come on board, and unfortunately, none of the guests in that vehicle were allowed to board the vessel. So they've shown that given very stringent and applied terms, that guests do comply in whatever way that is. They've made it work, and I think that's encouraging for everybody. I'm sure the panelists afterwards will have a more unique perspective as to what they think of the MSC experience.
Yeah, I'm sure, and these are results. Passengers who choose maybe to go outside the rules are facing fairly strict consequences, and I guess losing the rest of their cruise even is a possible result of that.
That's what they do. No soup for you.
Yeah, that's incredible to think that might happen, but I'm assuming that that's what's on the table now. So I guess what consumers will have to think about is, and maybe you can answer this for me, is health safety a growing factor in the consideration of consumers who are booking cruises, and so health safety in terms of the ship that they're on, and also the destinations that they're potentially going to visit. Have you seen that kind of thinking in consumers now, clients?
Absolutely. The previous sort of similar experiences we've had have been around security, and the industry overall globally was able to respond to that. We found that fear had a price within the industry, so to speak, and ships remained full and they responded accordingly. Here, it's not about security, it's about people's personal health. And the cruise lines are doing, I know, everything possible. Every item that we've seen in terms of health and safety protocols have really tried to consider every single possible touch point between the guest and the cruise line, and including, as in the MSC example, what happens when the guest goes ashore. And they're certainly very reassured, the guests, when they look at the depth of those protocols as to whether they would like to choose a cruise again for their next vacation.
I see. And that's very encouraging that the consumers are taking these factors into account, and maybe even making them a priority in their choice of bookings. I guess the issue now is that there's not a lot of ports that are available. So, for instance, are Caribbean cruises available for booking in the future? And are they maybe making up the majority of bookings for you to date?
I think overall the industry is likely going to start, as we've heard before, the analogy of it's not going to be a light switch, it's going to be a dimmer. And
Sure.
It's going to ramp up over time, and that will probably start with shorter cruises as those protocols are tweaked and perfected, as well as to ensure that should there be any incidents on board, that the cruise lines know how to respond accordingly. Our particular business, we tend to focus on longer cruises. The itineraries are still published, but who's to say what those governments will do? And I wouldn't want to be in the shoes of anyone on the planning and logistics side at any cruise line, because it's more complicated than ever.
Yes. You mentioned that I guess Australia is one of those destinations that so far seems to be off limits. So there's probably no way to even foresee when they might decide to open up.
You're absolutely right. They've now extended their self-imposed quarantine, with the bubble only extending to New Zealand until the end of the year, and many people think it will be longer than that. So it's really quite up in the air, especially
Sure.
for destinations that are bucket list magical destinations for many people.
So, Sanjay, is there an advantage with being a company that operates in the Shenzhen region of Europe? Does that clear the way to cruise and visit more places?
Well, all of these companies, are essentially global at this point. They can deploy vessels as they wish, but certainly the EU has published a set of guidelines and restrictions for cruise lines to follow. Will those evolve and change? I'm sure they will, but we're now seeing between AIDA, Costa, MSC, to name a few, that they're all embracing those regulations and employing itineraries in accordance with them. And then AMA has been started some river cruises for the German market. I'm looking forward to Christine's comments on those a little bit later.
Yes. Yeah, that will certainly be potentially a great Kickstarter for the industry, and with these cruise lines sort of leading the way. So yes, I look forward to hearing Kristen's comments on that. Just to return a bit to your own business. Are there ways that you are advising your counselors, your advisors to speak to clients, to reach out to clients? And are there ways that you can advice actually that you can give to the counselors who are watching the webinar on what they should be saying to their clients? For instance, can they talk to them about previous cruise experiences and sort of rekindle that enthusiasm?
Well, Ted, this is one of the few times where technology is not the answer, and
right.
I'm lucky for that, because I'm pretty much a technology Luddite. I even had to have my team help me with this so it didn't get messed up. But look, I think it's the old stuff. And there was a famous quote from Rahm Emanuel, who was part of the Obama administration: never let a good crisis go to waste. Now, I'm sure there may be other examples, but I personally cannot recall in my lifetime any situation where the entire world was thinking about and affected by the same thing. And this is a great time just to reach out and say hi. I don't know why there's a worldwide explosion on how to make sourdough bread, but it's there, right? So what a great time to just talk to people. They're at home. That's another magical thing. And share everything but cruising. Just talk to people. One of the cruise executives who does a weekly coffee chat, she gave an incredible statistic a number of weeks ago, which is the vast majority of guests cannot remember the name of the agent when they did their booking. That's not so great, right? So
no.
I would say the opportunity is to reach out, talk to guests, not about cruising, but to become memorable, to share what's going on in your life. We've all had to make changes, whether it's wearing masks or hand sanitizer and all the rest of it. The latest hand sanitizer I got suspiciously smells like tequila. I don't know if it was made in someone's basement or whatever, but it smells like tequila, right? So we've all got those stories. Those are great points of connection to share with the guests. The old thing of nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. It couldn't be more appropriate than in today's environment.
I think this is great for conversations with maybe clients who've sailed with the counselor before. But are there also ways for prospecting, new clients, ones who maybe haven't had the cruise experience, and for them there might be more hurdles to be faced. People who haven't cruised and maybe are coming in with a lot of doubts at this point. Any pointers on how those can be overcome?
Developing the new to cruise I think is going to be a little more challenging until we know what cruising is going to look like. We don't have the information to say, dining will look like this, shore excursions will look like that. So that I think is a little more difficult. The person who's taken a cruise before, they at least have a sense of what the vacation is going to be like or what it was like. And the cruise line's universal commitment is that it's going to be the same, but likely better in so many different ways. Even the announcement, which I know there were lots of cheers for,
Yes.
no more wear your life jacket to muster drill. Wow, fantastic! Right. It's a pandemic, but now we don't have to walk around with that orange life jacket dripping on the strings, straps, and things. That's a great thing, right? So you're going to see more innovation like that. That's going to happen.
Well, that's a good point, and I mean, it's possible, I guess, to put the whole muster procedure into a video presentation, I assume, and then follow that up with maybe some gathering on the deck, but not the huge group that you would usually have. That's, I guess, is what the whole point is, to avoid that. Correct?
I think that's part of it. The other part of it is they're talking about it being almost more personalized instead of you having to go at a specific time, but that you can go over a period of time to an area where someone can actually show you how to put on that life jacket. So you're not, struggling with it amongst 500 people, but someone's going to personally show you. That sounds better to me.
Okay. Yes, it does. How about at the gangplank before passengers even get on the ship? I assume that they're going to be facing a testing procedure. You think that will be part of the protocol? And how are passengers going to react to that? Is that going to slow things down quite a bit, or you should be okay?
It's certainly possible. It's a question of what that testing looks like. So yesterday, I flew back and forth to Winnipeg to get my father, and at the gate, Air Canada, tests your temperature, and it seemed fine to me. It probably does take a few seconds more when you add it all up, or a few minutes more to do the overall boarding. And let's see what cruise lines are going to do. It may well be that the actual testing, the way MSC has done it, will be part of the rollout when cruises resume in North America. I know every cruise line's looking for the best experience for the guest, but also how to ensure the safety once the guest is on board.
Of course. Yeah. Okay. The MSC process is a little more, I suppose, medical, and requiring actual testing of bodily fluids and spit. Is that right? That's what it comes down to. Yeah. Okay.
I believe it's
yeah. Great. That's good, Sanjay. And other measures will be put in place. I guess there's going to be on board. There will be also others measures like less people in a dining space. That sounds actually good. Maybe people are gonna actually like that sort of change. But by and large, you believe that passengers should be able to enjoy the cruise experience while also being protected. That's the bottom line.
I don't think anyone has a choice. If the number of cruise line executives have said there is no choice but to make the vacation as good as, if not better, than it was before. So I know they're working like mad to figure out exactly that. They're at each point of the experience, how do we improve it while maintaining, first and foremost, safety for the guest. So lots of innovation is going to come out of this. There's no question.
Sanjay, I'm just referring to a question that's come through from Wendy Chaput, and she asked what do you think the future of buffet dining will be on cruises? What do you think about that?
Well,
maybe not. Yeah.
No, I think everyone, has kind of tipped their hat, so to speak, and
Yes.
said that casual dining experience is important. People don't want to have formality or make a reservation or sit with people. All those things need to somehow be preserved. But it's not safe for people to serve themselves, no matter how many sneeze guards there are and all the rest of it. So I think you'll see still a casual, impromptu dining type of opportunity, but it will likely be with service. So that sounds like the best of both worlds. You sit at your
Yes.
table, you got a menu, somebody goes and gets the food for you and brings it back. Sounds great to me.
Right. Very good. I'll just check to make sure to see if we have any more questions. Dan, are you tracking more of those?
I am, and no other questions have come in yet. If
Okay.
people would like to submit any questions, feel free to submit them to either the chat tab or the Q&A tab in either place. And one comment that had come through was I'm glad to hear the protocols are being implemented and strictly enforced. I have watched many cruisers trying to avoid hand washing and can never understand their reasons.
Yes. Yes, see that. I think. Go ahead, Sanjay. What you comment on that? People getting used to these things?
Oh, I'm sure they are. And once we start introducing, custom smell hand sanitizer, believe me, everyone will want to do it.
Right. And even wearing masks. I mean, that's something that people had a hard time getting used to early on, but you're going to see more acceptance of that. I'm assuming.
I'm sure. And
Yeah.
again, the knowledge of the virus continues to change and expand and evolve each and every day. And by extension, so will various different organizations, whether it be airlines, hotels, cruise lines. Their response will evolve as well.
Very good. Dan, I wonder if we should.
Oh, there's one last question that has come through in the Q&A box just 1 minute ago, or
Yes.
not even a minute ago. Beth asks,
Yes.
what about cheaters, people who try to avoid the rule? It will be hard to monitor this.
Ted, all I can tell you is that my perception of the strength of what's worked, and again, Christine can comment on it, on their rules and regulations as it relates to on the river. It's about enforcing those standards, whatever they are. And yes, there will be people who will put more time and attention into trying to avoid something than just complying. There's always going to be a few. But if the rules and ramifications are clear, I would think, especially in this circumstance, that that people will comply. It's to everyone's benefit. No one loses by complying. So, it remains to be seen, Beth. But I hope I'm right.
I hope you are too. Obviously, people who decide maybe to skip around the rules might be facing strict consequences, as you described earlier. So, once word gets out about that, maybe people won't be so inclined to try and cheat. Yeah.
And I think that's about all the time we have for that segment. But thank you so much, Sanjay, for joining us today. It was really great to have you.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Sanjay.
We appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, and we'll now take a minute to prepare for segment 2, our panel discussion for today. So this next segment will consist of a panel discussion featuring Dondra Ritzenhaler, Senior Vice President of Sales for Celebrity Cruises, John Chernesky, Senior Vice President of Sales and Trade Marketing for Princess Cruises and Cunard Line, and Kristen Karst, co-owner and Executive Vice President of AMA Waterways. You may all activate your webcams now if you haven't done so already.
Greetings to everybody.
Can you hear me okay?
Hello, John.
Hello.
Hi, John. Thank you for joining. You can hear me okay? John?
And Kristen and Dondra, please activate your webcams and your mic now using that button in the upper right corner of your screen. And use those slider buttons to turn on your mic and webcam. And we'll let you know when we can see you. If anyone would like to quickly grab a drink of water or a snack, now would be a good time to do so while we get everything up and running.
John, you can hear me? Nope.
John, can you hear Ted okay?
I don't know. I haven't heard him say anything.
Oh,
Yeah.
John, can you hear me now?
There's Dondra.
Hey, John.
Hi.
So John, Ted was talking just then, but his sound wasn't coming through to you?
No, I didn't hear him. He's frozen, it seems to me. I don't know if Dondra can hear him.
Oh, that's so weird. I can see Ted okay.
And I can see
Okay.
you. Ted, why don't you speak? Yeah, Ted, speak like nonstop so we can tell when we can hear you.
Sure, yeah, no problem. Yeah, thank you for joining, everybody. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. And I just want to make sure everybody can hear my voice coming through.
I can.
Is that okay?
Wonderful. Thank you, Ted.
Yes?
Over to you.
Okay, great.
Hi, Christina.
Hi, Dondra. Hi, John. Hi, Ted.
Hi.
Nice to
Everything
see your
all right?
face, and nice to see your face.
Yeah.
Always good. Always good to see you. Yeah. Keep smiling.
Look at that, John. Did you shave? I can't tell if you shaved or that's just your shadow.
I haven't shaved fully since March. So I've just got this weird little beard. And I take all of my advice from Homer Simpson behind me. He's my patron saint. And so,
I love. I was
yeah,
about
everything.
to ask
Get
about
Rudy
your
into the picture. Rudy was growing a beard now.
Uh-oh.
Oh, very good.
There he is. Hey, Rudy.
Hey, Rudy.
Hi, everybody.
He looks
Nice
a lot
to
better
see
than
you,
I do.
Rudy.
What can I say?
My hair is getting lighter and lighter, okay?
Absolutely. Love it.
Ted, one
Thanks.
thing you need to know about Kristen is that she's so negative, and no one likes her in the industry because she's always, and she never smiles. She's never fun to be around. I'm kidding, of course. She's like the most positive person you'll ever meet. It's amazing.
She's awesome. She's totally awesome.
I'm really,
That's
it's
good.
so much fun to be together with all of you again. Really is. Thank you, John.
This is the best we've got right now. We hope that goes away soon. And Ted, I know you ask a lot of those questions to Sanjay, and he did a great job. Some of those you'll probably have to ask us as well, I'm sure.
I think you probably should be ready for some of that. And I'm obviously I'm pleased to see that there is a level of optimism there that and everybody seems pretty upbeat. So that's great. And maybe though, just start with John, if I could. And I sent you this question so you know. But in the early days of the pandemic were obviously a bit of a trial for everybody. Maybe you can share some of the motivations that have allowed you and the company to move forward from those early days.
Yeah, I think all of us. I mean, the people here on the panel, Dondra, Kristen, Rudy, we're internally motivated people. We are driven to succeed, and we believe so passionately in travel and what we're here to do. We've all been in this business for so long, and it's just something that we can't imagine not doing and not having in our lives. And so I think that optimism, and listen, we're lucky that we have managed to survive the financial burden of it. And, we all have our own issues, and I can only speak for myself, with our corporation is very financially sound, but it's not easy. And the people on that team that are raising funding to keep us going is pretty significant effort. But we're here not to focus on the negative. There's no good ever that comes out of that. And so we're just trying to find that glimmer of hope. And once we go back to sail, and we're seeing good success in terms of the response for future cruises and next year especially. But I don't feel like I've ever given up, or my team has ever given up. We've never sat around and said, woe is us. ever. Like, that's just not how we're wired.
I understand. And would Dondra, would you want to share some of your feelings about how you responded to those earlier challenges and then came back to where you are today?
Sure. And I'm going to echo what my friend John said, and welcome everybody. And Sanjay, great job. And Ted, thank you for having all of us today. And I agree with John. There was a while there initially that everybody was sort of in shock. And now, we're 100% focused on looking in the windshield and not the rearview mirror. And I think it's really important to do that. And, Sanjay was talking about doing things proactively. Some of my most motivational things that I've done is stay very close to my travel advisor, stay very close to my team. And as a result, I don't feel negative. And John also mentioned that future bookings are strong. We're seeing all the right signs, the light at the end of the tunnel for COVID vaccine. We are, we are really starting to feel that we are, coming out of this. And I think it's really important that we stick together. I think it's really important that we stay positive, and that's what we're doing. And, I'm going to give you guys a Maya Angelou quote that I so live by and love. It's literally sitting right here on my computer. And that is, if you don't love something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. So that's what we're doing at Celebrity Cruises. And I know everybody else is as well, because that's the reason that we're going to keep coming forward, and come out of this stronger than ever.
Very good. And Kristen, obviously you've had to go through some of the same situations, a different style of cruising, but obviously you had to recover from those earlier impacts. So can you give me some insight to that?
Oh, absolutely. And hello, everyone. Thanks for having us. Cruising is cruising, right? So we must never forget that at the heart of the travel industry is the human desire to connect with people and nature and the world around us. So this is just in our DNA, and it will all come back again. We know that. We just have to get through. Now, for us as AMA Waterways, with river cruising, there have always been situations in these past years. We had volcano eruptions over Iceland, where planes had to stop flying for a while, low and high water, acts of terrorism, and others. And all of these things made us thinking that there might be a year where we are not able to cruise. And honestly, we were planning for it. Little did we know that it's a virus that is coming in. So these rainy days are here now. But as Dondra said, I have another quote. I always say, the day you plant a seed is not the day you eat the fruit. And so Sanjay was so good too. Right now, it's not time of hard selling. It is time to prepare, to engage. And with over 95% of our business coming from our travel advisors, we have continued to engage with you, our advisors, to listen to your needs, be as flexible as we can, to remain open for discussions, to discuss different business possibilities for the future. And one of these engagements, of course, the cruise nights, coffee, teas, different stay hours. We have done close to 2,000 now, where our travel advisors come on board together with their clients to learn about new destinations. And so we see the glass half full, not half empty, and we'll come all out stronger in a better world.
That's great, Kristen. Thank you. And maybe I know that you now have a limited schedule of sailings happening. Is that correct? Am I correct with that? Limited itineraries?
Do. Yes. So we actually started to cruise with our Ama Christina on the Rhine River. Now, our primary markets are Canada, the US, and the UK. So operating a series of chartered sailings for our German-speaking guests That's what we have on board right now.
Okay.
This is something that we never had considered in the past, but it came with these challenges with the travel ban for our guests from the US. And even so, Canadians can come into Europe. They have to go back into quarantine currently when they come back to Canada. So there's really not a lot of travelers that really want to fly over. So we have certainly put our health and safety protocols into perfection while cruising since July 5. This is now 2 months, more than 2 months.
Okay.
And but I have to say the best protection comes when everyone practices all the guidelines together. That means daily temperature checks that we are doing before we come to breakfast, face coverings when moving around the interior of the ship, but
Okay.
obviously in your stateroom, on the sun deck, even when you sit in the lounge and in the dining area, you can take off the face coverings because we have installed plexiglass dividers between the different seating areas. There's, of course, most frequent hand sanitizing, washing of the hands, social distancing, the tables. Everything was measured that, everyone is in the right distance.
Yes.
Meals a la carte. We have introduced a new private riverview dining option for any guests who prefer to have their meals in the privacy of their stateroom on the balcony. Exclusive private airport transfers, small group excursions. No guests are allowed to come on board. Like in the past, we had passengers, they ask, we have friends living in Holland or Belgium, can we invite them to come on board for dinner? And that was always easy in the past, but not anymore, of course.
No.
And so everything is fine. Our guests are extremely happy with their experience on board, and many have booked a second cruise already. So the protocols are working very, very well.
So there is a positive response by passengers. That's great to hear that. And I wonder if John, if you can tell me if you're watching the experience of Emma Waterways with their passengers and their protocols, and whether there are lessons to be learned from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me okay? Because I'm getting some error messages. You can hear me all right?
I can hear you okay, yes.
Okay, good. So I would say that, all of us, we're in this together, and none of us are going to win anything by saying we're safer, we're healthier than any other brand. We're all going to be using a very similar foundation. And we have the benefit at Princess, because we're not not in the water until at this point, mid-December, that we're looking at what AMA Waterways is doing. We're looking at MSC, and obviously we have our sister brand Costa, which just set sail in Italy. So we have a little bit of time to absorb what they're doing and then use those protocols to help build the foundation for what we ultimately will be operating under.
I see. I wonder if Dondra, you could even explore that a little further and tell me, for instance, I was reading about the healthy sail panel, and I guess there are recommendations to come out of that. Have those recommendations been made, and can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. And I want to echo what John said, that we are
Sure.
in this together. We really are. And we did, people actually said, why did you end up partnering with Norwegian to do the healthy sail panel? And I really want to explain that, number one, because ironically enough, Norwegian as well as Royal Caribbean Group were independently working on a healthy sail panel. Two of the people that were, one of them that was working on the Norwegian one and one of them that was working on ours, knew each other and had worked together on a panel previously. They called each other and said, hey, listen, I'm working on this panel. And they said, oh my gosh, I'm working on this panel. And that's really how it came together. But the knowledge and the recommendations will be shared in the industry. It will be shared with our friends, with John and with Christina and everybody, really. So that's kind of the first part that I wanted to level set as to why one brand over the other. It was just kind of an ironic thing, number one. But number two, really, really proud of the company for taking this approach. Similar to the approach that the Carnival Corp took with their I don't even remember, John, what you called it, but it was
The Science Summit, yeah.
Yeah, summit. And
Right.
so what we did was we put all of these experts together, because it's one thing for us to do what we know being in the business. And that's why Muster 2.0 and, Sanjay mentioned earlier about the buffets changing.
Yes.
But we really wanted to get to to the most incredibly experienced and experts in their different industries, whether it be science or health or culinary in this world, et cetera, et cetera. And they owed us. This panel got together, and by the way, the CDC had an observatory seat the whole time. So the CDC will not see this for the first time when we submit it to them. But we did hear back from the CDC panel. We did get their recommendations because they committed to doing that by the end of August. They met that commitment. We now have them, and we're going through and evaluating them. And then we will be submitting those just for Royal Caribbean Group, not in conjunction with Norwegian, just our company. We will be very shortly submitting those to the CDC. Once they actually approve them, and we hope that that's very quickly, then that gives us time to go in and implement what their recommendations in the CDC approved, and that's when we'll be able to go back into the water and join, Christina and some of the MSCs of the world that are able to do that in Europe. And I can just say we have this thing called #can'twait, and man, I can't wait to do that. I'm ready.
That's great. I obviously one of those measures is the muster procedure. I'm sure there's many more. But John, if I could just jump over to you, I was asking you a little bit about the ports that will be available for sailing, and I guess on the outset that's going to be kind of a limited selection. So this is, I was wondering if an alternative will be to rely in the Caribbean on private islands that are associated with the cruise line.
Yeah, I think we will clearly want to take advantage of our private islands and any ports, islands that are open and willing to work with us. And ultimately, we will be taking people to safe places. So if there is an island, if there's a port that has had a recent, surge in cases, then I could see us not going there, and changing our itinerary. That's the beauty of being on a ship, is that you have the flexibility to, move things around and change your itinerary if you have to. But clearly, the ports in the Caribbean are so anxious for us to come back, and around the world. I mean, the economic impact of cruising, let's not underestimate that, because this is their livelihood in so many cases. And so, it's not to say that you'll do anything to get the business. They're going to do it right, and they're going to follow their guidelines, and we're going to partner with them, especially when we bring people to shore, and we go on our shore excursions and work with our local tour operators, making sure that all the protocols we have in place are the absolute safest, and that we can all rely on that and deliver on that, because that's so important. That we're not just going to be sailing around in a circle in the ocean. People want to go someplace. It's a destination, right? They want to go see the world. And so we're going to do it right and make sure it's safe, and make adjustments as we need to.
Even in the midst of a cruise, that's a possibility, you're saying?
Well, listen, anything's possible, and we have to remain flexible at all times. And it happens now in this industry. If weather occurs or something happens, you might have to miss a port. Christine and all the AMA folks have to deal with rising water levels, and you have to adjust, and you make the most out of the situation and make sure you're taking care of your guests.
And I wonder if you can just discuss a little bit about the procedures that may be waiting for passengers when they decide to go on a shore excursion. And this is something that all of you would possibly want to comment on. Are there going to be tighter rules for operating a shore excursion? Can you maybe describe what you think that's going to look like?
Yeah, ultimately, I'm just guessing right now as to how exactly that's going to look, because we haven't locked down those protocols.
Sure.
But clearly it's not going to be the same world that we were in 2019, where our shore excursions, are great experiences, but clearly things are going to change, and our protocols will have to be agreed with them. I don't know if we're going to be requiring that when people go ashore, they go with our shore excursions, because we can control that group. I don't know if that's going to be the case, or how we're going to manage that. Right now, it's still being developed, and not my area of expertise, so I don't want to speak on behalf of that team.
Thank you. Kristen, do you have any thoughts on that?
Shore excursions. Well, what we are seeing right now is with the German-speaking guests, they know their countries. They don't really go on organized shore excursions, but they love to take our bicycles on board. And obviously, we do the right things, sanitizing the bikes, the helmets, very carefully. We have bike guides at the front of the small group. At the end, we have smaller groups than ever. But basically, when you do an organized bike tour, it's pretty much all under control, right? Because you're within your own group. The future definitely is very small groups. We always had many different options that we provide when it comes to our shore excursions. They are all included. Our guests have to choose from. But I would think that in the future, instead of even having 15 to 20 guests in one group, it might be 8 to 10. And then it's being grouped by family groups, couples that have been traveling together. And so let's see how this goes. But I cannot imagine that there is a protocol that can police you all the time. Yeah.
Right.
What we as cruise line have to make sure is that, as John just said, there might be, and there are currently also cities where there are some rising cases again. And then maybe at one point we have to make a decision to skip one port, because in cases and places it's a different port. It is more safe and more secure. And this is how we will be following the protocol.
I see. Any comment on that subject as well, Dondra?
No, I'll just, for the sake of time, we're very similar. We're waiting on the CDC to come back to us with basically all of those protocols, including what we do ashore, how we do the dining, how we do, really everything. So I'm just going to say that. The only thing I did want to add is how cool Muster 2.0 is for those of you that are listening that may not know, Ted. And that is, you can actually watch the video on your smartphone, on your, any kind of an iPad or laptop, or even in your stateroom when you do get to the ship. And then during that window of time, in that first 2 or 3 hours, you at your own leisure with just your group will go down to the actual muster station place and get the check that you've physically been there. And the bars don't close, because John, that's important to John. And so, no, I'm just kidding, John. Just kidding. But it's a much better experience. And I believe that while the protocols are going to be good and safe, I also believe that they will enhance the cruise experience. And so I agree with John that we will wait until we hear from the experts and we come out with our formal notice. But I also want to say that we so believe that we will not only deliver a safe and healthy cruise, but we'll also deliver on one that's our promise, that we will, deliver a modern luxury experience, and you're still going to have the most amazing cruise vacation ever. And we really can't forget that piece.
Absolutely. And I wonder then that, just to continue that thought, are you getting that message out to travel counselors and emphasizing that point to them, and so that they can then pass that word on to their clients? Is that an ongoing process?
Completely ongoing. What we promised our travel advisors in the globe is that we will get them a very easy way to not only understand, with one pagers and videos and webinars and trainings, etc., but then also a way that they can then absorb that and be able to then turn around and communicate that to the guest. That's what we believe that we owe our travel advisors, because they're an extension to us. So we will 100% give them that, but we've also been reminding them along the way that people are still making bookings, and that we can't be too afraid and too much in pause and not moving forward. And so that's been really successful for us. And, based on what my amazing colleagues said, them as well.
Any comment there, John, on the outreach to travel counselors and
No, Don just said it perfectly. It's so critical and how we make it simple so that A, I can understand it, and B, I can help communicate it. We need to make sure that it's something that's easy to share with their clients and that they feel like they're empowered with the right information to share with their clients.
Great, thank you. I just want to jump a little bit, John. Would you want to comment on where the timeline is for new ships? Can you talk a little bit about that, or how that's being adjusted?
Yeah, I think all of us have had impacts because, if you're building a ship at a shipyard in Italy or wherever, and that shipyard is closed, clearly you're not making much progress. And so we're thankful that for Princess, we have the Enchanted Princess coming out at the end of this year. She was delayed a few months, which is unfortunate, but ultimately, let's not forget these new ship orders are they take a long time to design, to build, to deliver, and it's not like you can just say, well, halfway through, we're done, we don't really want that ship anymore. Yeah, that's your ship, that's your baby, so you better get ready for it. And I think there has been some delays, but we're still full steam ahead, and we look forward to introducing our new ships into the fleet.
Yeah, very good. And is there a schedule out there for retirement of ships, or did you want to discuss?
There's a lot of conversation about ships being sold. Within our corporation, we've sold off a number of ships, and I think as and when that comes around and that gets finalized, then we'll make the announcement and let everybody know.
Sure.
And on the one hand, I have to say, just on a personal level, I feel like seeing some of these ships go, it's kind of sad because you've sailed with them, you've enjoyed them. But there's also maybe a glimmer of positivity that, we're now looking at this opportunity to really make sure that the ships that remain are truly the best and the newest with the most, advanced features. And so I guess it depends how you look at it, and how much emotional attachment you have to a particular ship. If you love a certain ship and that ship is now sold, it's a sad moment, but my suggestion is to find another ship to love.
Yeah. Well, that maybe is part of the messaging for travel advisors to put out to their clients. I'm assuming that some of those clients are the ones who have favorites that they've always been on board, and maybe it's time they jumped on a new ship. Kristen, can you tell me a little bit about what your outlook is for new builds?
Absolutely. Well, we always have had a conservative growth plan, 1, 2, or maximum 3 ships per year. As we like to pay cash for our ships, we can certainly sleep better this way, and it helps us in these days.
Right.
For next year, as planned, we will be adding 2 new twin balcony ships to our European fleet. This will be the Ama Siena, which was supposed to come out this year, but is delayed into the end of this year, which is absolutely fine because anyway, the fleet cannot really cruise. So it's coming in March, and the Ama Lucia will follow a month later. That's a capacity at 156 guests per ship. And then we have 2 other twin balcony ships, the Ama Bella and the Ama Verde, which will be undergoing extensive renovations over the winter period. Plus, we are also putting the final design touches on our new ship on the Nile River in Egypt, the Amadalia, which is proving to be extremely popular. So her first season is starting September 21. And I can really give you the good news. 21 is already 70% booked on that new ship that is coming and still under construction. So the desire to travel is definitely there. People want to. And as John and Dontra said, we want to go on new ships with enhanced features, new technology, more space, great dining choices, dining options, and certainly the cruise lines will deliver it. Wonderful product.
Excellent. Thank you. And Dondra, I don't know whether you want to jump in there with any news on that front.
Well, just super quickly, Apex was supposed to come out in April of this year. She's there. She's got her crew on. She's ready to go. She's beautiful. And, as soon as we get back in the water, she'll be our new flagship ship. Nobody would have ever dreamt that she would be sitting there from April until now without the first guest. Kind of makes you crazy. And then, of course, we've got three more in the Edge class ships. And they will be delayed, just like my colleague said, but not by much, by 4 months, 5 months, because some of the yards are now finally back open again. So we'll be fine, but I cannot wait to show off our beautiful Apex to join Edge in the Edge class series in November, hopefully.
Amazing. That sounds great. I've got some questions here that have been sent in, and I'd like to field these quickly if I could.
Sure.
There is, for instance, a desire to use virtual travel and touring, and a couple of people are asking what resources are being used to create 360 virtual tours. And John, would you want to field that?
So I'm not sure we have what you're calling 360, but we have a number of resources on our agent portal, which is onesourcecruises.com, with various videos, various marketing materials that help you connect with understanding what the ships are like, and we also have training programs with our Princess Academy, which is always a great resource to understand not only ships but all the services that we offer. So I think I've heard a lot of positive feedback from people that they're using this time to educate themselves, not to say you're not busy, but that you're using the best time that you can to make sure you're up to speed. And we're seeing great engagement, especially in our academy program, just because people are using the time to train to make sure that once the floodgates open, that they're ready and they can speak as experts to their clients.
Okay, good. Here's another from Bob Ogilvy. How do you see reduced capacity on board affecting prices?
So this is I'll jump in on that one.
Sure.
It's interesting because there's this feeling that when the cruise lines come back in the water, they're going to really come out with cheap rates to stimulate demand. And I really want to just make sure that everybody on this call hears that is certainly not the case. And I can't speak for anybody else other than Celebrity. We are blessed in the sense that we were already really booked heavily for 2021 before this crazy thing happened. And now that we are going to go out with reduced capacity, we're actually in a pretty good booked position. Now, don't misunderstand. We still want your business. We still need your business. But we're not going to go in and just reduce rates to fill, because we're only going to go to that 60, 70% occupancy.
Yes.
And, like Kristen said, their new ship is already 70% booked, and that's not until Q3 of next year. And we're seeing very similar types of things. So my advice to everybody is don't wait, because really in this bridge and this gap of time, we're doing more things like, flash sales and things like that to sort of stimulate demand before we open back up and get back in the water. Now is actually the best time to book, because when we come back and that pent up demand comes in, you're going to see prices go up, not go down. So I wanted to tackle that one because I really want everybody to hear that so that we can take advantage of what we have right now.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
I just want to add to it. June was actually our very best booking month. So the pent-up demand is definitely there, and we will be busier than ever. So it is great to prepare now to put your booking in. With the reduced capacity, currently ships where we normally carry 160 guests on board, on any of the ships we can only cruise with a maximum capacity of 100 guests now this year. What comes next year, we don't know yet what the government regulations will be. But this doesn't change pricing, not up and not down. Yeah. So we always are very truthful. This is the price. This is the value. This is a great offer here. But it will never be dumping. And at the same time, we will also not increase pricing just because we can only cruise with a limited number of guests. That wouldn't be fair, and that's not what we are doing.
John, any thoughts on your approach to that question?
No, I would echo both the comments there, and I agree. And I think don't wait is a great piece of advice.
Very good. Also, a more sort of detailed question. What happens if someone tests positive when they return from a shore excursion? I mean, this is obviously looking to the future, and what would be the solution?
Well, this is Dondra. I'm going to again defer to our healthy sail panel, because those are certainly one of the questions that's come up in that, and what is our formal policy going to be. The
Sure.
reality of it is that we're going to do everything possible that we never have someone on our ship,
Yeah.
at the very beginning that actually is positive for COVID, whether it be test or daily temperature checks, etc. And the likelihood of somebody actually getting COVID when they're on a shore excursion and coming back on the ship with it, it's not likely.
No.
Because you know what I mean. You don't know if you know what I'm saying. It's not an instant thing, as everybody
Of
well
course.
aware. So I think what I'll do is defer my official answer on that, but to say, when people come on and they're not sick, they're the goal, and what I think will happen is that they will get off not sick.
Very good, thanks. And Kristen, here's one to you. What is the reaction of the passengers when they're told they have to follow the rules? Are they good with that?
Yeah, well, I'm German by myself, right? I can always say Germans are very disciplined. They follow the rules.
Right.
Maybe it's also, let's take a look. River cruise passengers are usually very mature when it comes to this. They want to follow the rules. They want everyone else to follow the rules, because everyone wants to be safe, right?
Sure.
And you are more safe in public areas when you wear a face covering until you sit down. We all know that. And and actually our guests are having fun doing it. They don't feel that it's diminishing from the cruise experience, not at all, because the truth is, if we wear a mask or not, we still see the world through the beautiful eyes that we have. We see the beautiful smile of our crew members, and we see the magic around ourselves, the nature, vineyards, castles, all these stunning places that we want to see with or without mask. That shouldn't be the question, right? We all want to experience and explore, and that's what our guests are seeing as well.
That's a great outlook, and I'm sure Dondra, John, you probably agree with that essential outlook. So maybe I can, Dan, maybe we should consider wrapping it up here.
Yeah, I think we could. Let me just double check here that we're not missing anything. Yeah, I believe we've gotten to everybody, which is great.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think in the interest of time, we can probably wrap it up, but I'd like to send a huge thank you to Dondra, John, and Kristen. That was excellent. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Taking part.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
From all of us here at Baxter Media, I'd like to thank everyone for attending. If you happen to miss part of today's session, the recording of this webinar will be available tomorrow on the Baxter Media YouTube channel. And thanks so much to Ted Davis, our moderator. Thanks, everyone. We really appreciate talking to you today, and we hope you all take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Ted.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Very good. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, thanks, Ted. Take care.
That works well. Okay, thanks. Talk to you.